Hey everyone, Matt here from a 3-0 podcast, just stopping by to invite you to come and listen to me and my mates talk about football. Whether that be a special, such as Lionel Messi.
Imagine that, imagine having lost Lionel Messi because clubs thought that he wasn't going to grow up in time.
Yeah, I mean, it just wasn't worth £1,000 a month. So
I was going to say, hindsight's 2020, isn't it? I'm guessing at the time, no one could have foreseen that Lionel Messi would turn into, one of the greatest players to ever grace the football pitch.
Times when we're discussing football seriously.
Rodri definitely deserving yellow card. Do you see his little dive he did in the box where Chan flicked his leg out and it brushed his thigh?
Yeah, and
he went down holding his face like he'd been
I
shot.
don't see yellow cards for diving anymore.
Or times when we're just plain having a laugh.
Another great name, a Belgian name, Mark de Man.
De Man. What,
putting
did he
that
play
in-
defence? Mark the Man.
I don't actually know. I just
Imagine the keeper. That player, so the player got so confused there. Mark the man!
Mark the Man! What?
You can find us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and all other major podcast platforms. Just search 3-0 Podcasts. Thanks, and hope to see you on our next episode. Hello and welcome to the second episode of this FIFA 22 beta. My name is Matt Goff and I'm here with Ethan Ormston, a fellow 3-0 podcast host. Hello, Ethan. How are you doing?
I am good. Thank you very much.
Some of you might know Ethan by his PSN name, Hello Ethan, and Goodbye Ethan as well. He's been on the channel a few times before, but yeah. Again, this episode is sponsored by our 3-0 podcast. And it's where myself, Ethan, and Chuck, we all gather around, have a point each, and we basically say random stuff about football. Sometimes they're facts, sometimes they're players' careers, stuff we think that is interesting to know, basically. That's our sponsor for this video. Do check that out. We're on Spotify, Castbox, loads of different podcast platforms. We're pretty much everywhere. Go check us out. That is the 3-0 podcast. Anyway, shall we talk about FIFA 22?
Oh, shall we?
Yeah, so the last episode, we pretty much just covered the gameplay and mechanics. We touched a little bit on AI. So now we're actually going to go fully into it with the AI. Now, the AI...
I mean, it's probably worth saying before we get into this that obviously you and Chuck have both played the beta. I haven't, so I'm completely clueless as it gets into this.
Yeah, thank you for having that. Yeah, so Ethan hasn't played it at all. So he's a neutral party this time. So hopefully he's going to ask questions that you guys are thinking that we might not think to mention. So, that's Ethan's job. See how well he does. The AI, it's so much more aggressive when they're tackling you. So when you have the ball and you're dribbling with it, if you are taking them on, they will slide in and they will try and press you for the ball. Sometimes they win the ball, sometimes they don't. But it's so much nicer because you can actually try and beat the AI with skill and stuff now. It's not
I'm screwed then.
Well,
I'm screwed.
Yeah.
I'm like Pep's Barcelona team. I'm all passing and movement. It gets his skills, and I'm like anything more than like a ball roll or a Ronaldo chop, and I'm done. So
yeah, exactly.
I'm probably a bit of trouble playing if skill is what you need to get past defenders.
Yeah. I mean, ball rolls are overpowered. We did mention that in the previous episode. They are overpowered against AIs. Not sure how overpowered they'd be against real opponents, but that's more for everyone to try out. But yeah, it's very nice because the AI just jumps in and dives in. And there's been a few times where I've done skill around the box and then pushed the ball forward and sprinted with the ball. And the AI have dived in and given away a penalty. And it just seems really realistic because it's like a lunge tackle like they do, which you never get in previous FIFAs. Like you've never gotten that before at all.
I did feel like FIFA 21 was probably the least amount of penalties I've gotten in a FIFA in a very long time. Like I felt like it's especially like tackles around the box. Like I mean, it could be that I'm not a very skill based player, but I play career mode quite a lot, and I might get maybe let's say between 2 and 5 penalties a season.
Right. Yeah.
And 5's like an exceptional amount, whereas like you saying this year, it could be like maybe not a penalty a game, but like a penalty every other game when you're playing it.
Yeah, put it this way: with the skillful players that you have, you can definitely play for penalties if you wanted to.
Okay.
It wouldn't be the most efficient way to play, obviously, but you could definitely entice the AI in and then really punish them. So
Bruno Fernandes action.
Yeah, pretty much.
Light touch of the boxes going down.
Yeah. Defensive wise as well, the AI is decent. It is a slight improvement. It hasn't changed too much though. They are more compact though. They do seem to move slightly more cohesively as a unit. But it's not a massive improvement because it was kind of good before. You still get that thing, whereas if you kind of half beat the player and you then launch the ball forward a bit, like you flick the right analog stick and you launch the ball forward, the AI behind you just gives up. That still happens. So yeah, there's no change there. And yeah, I mean, there's not too much else to mention about the AI.
I don't know if you might have covered this in the first episode, but in terms of speed for AI, is it like, have they finally improved a bit of speed where if you're sat there with like Mbappe and you're one-on-one defending against like, I don't know, like Per Mertesacker or someone who's got no pace, that it like, unless you skill past them, like you can't seem to run past them. Have they sorted out the whole pacing? If you've got a slow defender, he is actually a slow defender, you should be able to knock it past him in one pass.
Well, to be honest, I actually think they've done it the other way round. So now it's more down to, if your defender is in a good position, it is a lot harder to run it around him. You can still pace it around, but you have to go fully around him. Whereas if he's in a good position and if he's still tracking back, you can't really beat him. You'd have to have a good, like, I don't know, plus 50 difference in pace to be able to do that. Unless they make a challenge, obviously that's different. But if you're both running the same direction, it's very difficult to do that. And also the strength mechanics, like we spoke about, especially with big centre backs, it's very difficult to beat just by sheer pace. You do have to involve some sort of skill or angle to your pace to then burst out. So it is way more realistic in that sense. But yeah, so obviously for those of you that don't do skill, you are going to struggle. But then again, I've only played from world class and above, so that's probably why. Obviously, the lower you go down the difficulties on that spectrum, the easier that will get, and probably you won't need to use any skill, especially at amateur or semi-pro level. I don't think you need to, do you?
Yeah.
But yeah, so we touched on goalkeepers last time. The AIs and goalkeepers have improved, like I said. They still follow the ball when a shot has been taken, which is really nice because their head follows the ball and they parry it and then pick it up sometimes as well if the handling isn't great, which is more realistic. So yeah, big improvement there for goalkeepers AIs. Also, there is a nice little addition now where the AI does actually make mistakes, especially from goal kicks as well. I've noticed I've played maybe about 40 hours worth, and I've had maybe 2 or 3 mistakes from goalkeepers from the goal kicks, where they just pass it to me and I've just had an open goal to shoot in. I'm not saying that happens a lot, but it sometimes does happen where the goalkeeper just clear it and then it goes straight to you, doesn't it? So
I've only ever seen it in FIFA 21 once or twice in career mode where I've had a keeper pass it to me. But I mean, it's probably saying more about my ability at FIFA than anyone else's. That I always had it that when you're skipping an AI goal and you keep pressing X because you want to try and skip it and you accidentally press pass, or this is one thing that FIFA 21 used to do, which really irritated me, is if you press pass as a keeper to one of your defenders, and then your defense decides for some reason to move further forward, or if the AI striker decides to move forward, they'll immediately get the ball. And it's sort of like it's more about making an X pass when you don't call, like, you can choose to call a second man, can't you, towards you as a keeper if you want to play a short pass. If you don't do that and you press a pass button, sometimes the AI would intercept it quite easily. But that could be more my ability of being impatient rather than
I think that is your ability of just choosing the right man.
Yeah, probably. It's probably more like, I'm just impatient. I want to get the game started again, and I don't pay attention.
Yeah. That's probably what that is, to be honest. Because it is very important, obviously, to aim as a goalkeeper. Because if you get it wrong, then it's not ideal. But so that's that section done. So the next section, we're going to talk about like the halftime stats, you could call it, or stats in game, shall we say, like the match facts that you go into. And they've done a massive overhaul with it. I say massive. They've changed it. It still displays somewhat the same information. There is a lot of new information as well. But as far as this goes, it's a big change compared to the previous FIFAs.
Okay.
So yes, like at halftime and stuff, you'd say the match facts, and you'd see the shots on target, the goals, assists, etc. Blah 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 blah. You see all of that. Now it's so much more immersive, and you can really look. Say if you're in the 30th minute, and you want to see what players are controlling the game the most. You could, for example, you can go to the passing section and look at a single player. You have a list of players that go down. So you have a list of all your players, that go down. You can look at your passing stats for each of those players, listing it going down. And you also have, which is new on everything, a heat map, which shows, say, for example, passing. It can show exactly where your player passes the most and where he's moved the most. Obviously, as a usual heat map. And it also shows on that map the successful passes and where those were on the pitch, the unsuccessful passes, the long passes, etc. There's different ways, and it shows you which angle they were passed as well, because it has lines to show which way.
How much different is this from the player? I mean, the passing thing sounds different from player performance, but obviously in the menus anyway, there is the player performance thing, which shows obviously each individual player, and it shows like their shots on target, pass types, pass completion, defensive actions.
So pretty much what they've done is combined the two. They're just showing. I mean, player performance is still there. It is kind of similar still. Yeah. But they've combined the two and just basically showing way much more information on the screen.
Okay.
Which is really nice. Because it's just so much better, because you can see exactly what you want to see in those menus. Because, for example, shooting as well, it does exactly the same thing for shooting. It does the same thing for defending. So you have all of these different heat maps and successful tackles, successful shots and stuff like that. Even Goalkeepers has saves, and it has a similar thing as well. So yeah, match facts in general, which just had a huge overhaul with the player performance as well. It's a big improvement. I think it has been a bit stale the past, maybe I think it's 6 FIFAs now. It's been about the same. Where they've just had a list that's come down. Actually, that list has been around since I think FIFA 10 or so. Actually, so as long as I can remember,
it's been around pretty much since FIFA started. To be honest, I think the whole match facts of because usually it's just it's like shots on target, pass percentage. Yeah. Like the only new ones I think are probably relatively new. It's probably pass percentage and shooting percentage. But I think all of the facts like shots on target, possession, that's always been there from probably FIFA back in the 2000s, maybe. Yeah.
And there's another thing as well. It shows you the possession, but not just the overall possession of where you are at that point in the game when you obviously pause it. It takes a note at 15 minutes. It takes a note at 30 minutes. It takes a note at 45 minutes. It takes a note at 60 minutes, 75 and 90.
Okay.
So it does it in 15-minute installments. And obviously, if you go into extra time, it will do that then as well, which is really nice as well, because you can break up the play. And it also shows it breaks it down into the thirds of the pitch as well. So obviously in your defending half, you're midway, and then the attacking half. So yeah, they've basically just tried to find so many new ways to add stats and just pause it and basically add, especially if you're, for example, playing career mode and you're trying to think, okay, where am I being successful? Like you're getting eased down that right hand side or something. You can really see what players are doing well, and what's working and what isn't.
Okay.
Just through the stats, which is really nice. So if you really want to pep it up, you can. Yeah, cool. You got anything to add to that, or are you quite happy?
I mean, it sounds interesting, but I'll be completely honest. As a FIFA player, I don't really pay too much attention to the match facts, to be honest. I mean, I only really use the player performance thing when I used to play VFL and clubs to get your match stats for clubs. Yeah. I don't think I ever really used. I might have used a player performance when looking at how many assists, how many shots a few players had, but I don't think I would not even pay attention to the match facts. But I'm guessing if people are interested in that sort of stuff, then it's something that's nice to look at. But I can imagine it'll be a novelty that wears off after a week or so.
Not gonna lie, that's exactly what happened to me. I looked at it the first time, was like, "Oh, this is really cool," and then I haven't looked at it since. So, right. So there's one thing I've forgotten, which I'm going to add in quickly, and it's a cool little feature. And this is an overlay on the game now. We're moving on to overlays, and it's really cool because I've seen it happen on a lot of Twitch streamers and other gamers.
Yeah.
And basically what it is you can have a graphic of your controller on the top right of the screen, and you can see the inputs of exactly the buttons that you put. Now,
Okay.
I know this has existed on PC before, but I haven't noticed it on console ever. If it has, it's completely slipped me by. But as far as I'm aware, this is a new feature. And I find it really cool because, knowing what buttons you press, I don't know. I know what buttons I press, but it's just nice to see, like in the top corner of your screen, like, I'm paying attention to that button, and
I was going to say, I would definitely turn it off in 2 seconds, but it'd probably annoy me having that in the corner of my screen.
It's an option that you have to turn on if you want to see it. So as default, it stays off. So yeah.
It's like time finishing. I've never used that ever, and I refuse to use it because I think it's pointless. But
it's a
some
little
people
bit.
love it. So
yeah. But yeah, for me, that's a really nice added feature because I don't know, especially for those streamers out there, they're really going to appreciate that. The console streamers anyway. Because I think a lot of viewers like to watch gamers and how they play. So if you can watch what buttons they press at that time, then it's obviously very, very good. So the streaming community are going to be very, very happy about that. But yeah, that's pretty much it regarding the facts and stuff. I mean, everything is now a similar layout to Ultimate Team. Regarding the match facts and everything, the way it's laid out, like I said before, with the possession and shooting and dribbling and all that. Not dribbling. Dribbling is part of it as well. Sorry. So you can do take-ons completed and all that. It's all done with like the R1 and L1 thing. So the same like tab system that it's got on Ultimate Team. So like, for example, when you go on Ultimate Team, or in career mode, you have your squad and then you go onto like your office part and stuff like that. It's those tabs. It's the same thing, but with possession and dribbling, etc. Defense, cool. Shooting. So yeah, it's laid out like that. It's a nice touch. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the overlays and match facts and player performances and all that. Now we can move on to cutscenes. There's not really anything that's changed. I've only noticed one new animation like cutscene when I've won a trophy in career mode, which is really irritating because obviously you're going to see that one and then the other one that we're all used to time and time again. We do need more variety there because it's very irritating, especially if when I don't know if you guys are like me, but I win 4 cups a season usually, at least, and I see that 4 times a season, and it's very, very samey, and I end up skipping it now.
And they done anything else with the I don't want to jump the gun, but obviously on career mode, I don't have like the choice of 3 different areas to do my business of some random restaurant, some random like hotel lobby, or my office. Oh
yeah, there's a new one. There's new stuff now. They've changed it a bit where when you're like contract negotiations you're talking about and stuff like that, aren't you?
Yeah. Like, so buying players and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, they've changed it a bit. They've added some new ones, but nothing notable really. They've added different music like they did before, but it's nothing new. I mean, really.
I mean, let's say on FIFA 21, it got to a point where every single time the cutscene would start, I'd be holding square to skip. And I'd skip everything and just put in the financials I want to do, and that's it.
Okay, I'll tell you one thing that has changed though. What? Rather than holding square, you have to hold X.
That's going to fuck me off.
I
am going to make so many like just impatient hold X and end up fucking paying, I don't know, £75 million fucking Phil Jones or someone. I've been holding X and I've gone shit, submit offer. I've agreed to their offer and like sold Ronaldo for $2 million. It's 5 minutes square. What? Don't they change?
Yeah, it is one of those things that it's like either EA has clearly decided that we haven't changed enough in career mode. We're going to do this instead to make it seem like there's a big change, but actually we've just changed a single button. And also, you can't skip it straight away like you could before. You actually, for a lot of it, especially the contract negotiations, you have to wait until they sit down at the table before you can then skip the words. So you actually have to wait for them to come in and stuff, which is very annoying. One thing that is cool though with cutscenes, you know when people walk out, like at the start of a game, and they're walking out and they're about to shake hands and stuff, just before them, they've added something really cool, and I love it. And it's one of those little things that they've added to the game that will probably stay in the game for a long time. And if you could think of something that's missing from the start, what would you say it is that happens in real life?
What, the tunnel cam, like having the camera, like as the players come out of the tunnel and stuff?
Well, they have that anyway. They've had that before, like when it's just loading up, haven't they?
Yeah.
But they've actually got mascots now, kids.
Oh, okay.
Lined up at the start. They line up in front of all the opposition players. So they're
That's
wearing,
quite cool.
so the home kit, so the home side kids standing in front of the away side players and vice versa, like they do in real life. And it's really funny because when the ref blows a whistle, the kids then run away and run off and smiling and all that. It's really funny.
Funny.
So yeah, it just adds a little bit of realism. Obviously, it's again something that you're going to skip once you're playing career mode loads and loads. But it's nice to see the first few times because you're like, oh yeah. Especially if you're like me, if you're playing like a massive game and stuff, you like to watch the lineups and stuff come out, and just having that just makes it way more realistic. So yeah.
It's one thing I've always thought, and I don't know if it's something to do with licensing or the fact that, you know, I don't know if referees are allowed to take sponsorship deals or anything. I doubt that they could. But, you know, obviously they've got licensed names of referees, haven't they? So, like, like in the Premier League, you get, like, Lee Mason, so on and so like, you know, like Martin Atkinson, or referee. Yeah, Clattenburg. So you used to have those as, like, names. I don't know if it's the fact that the EA can't scan the referees, but what I'd love, and I don't know if it'll be in the game, I doubt it'll be in the game yet, but maybe FIFA 23, let's get face scans of the referees. Why can't they face scan the referee? Like, there might be some sort of like I mentioned, like some sort of thing that referees aren't allowed to have sponsorships, aren't allowed to sign like deals with EA or something, because it might lead to some sort of bias somewhere. But, you know, I would like to have at some point a few referee face scans. So, like, you know,
at least, even if they're fake referees that are personalities, though, that you can kind of like get to know in the game, even if they're not actually in real life, it would be better rather than just having a random generated face every time, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I know.
So yeah, that would be nice. But yeah, also there's one more animation that I've noticed, and then after that, that's it. There's no new like cutscenes or anything.
Okay.
And that's when you play a derby, for example, Manchester derby. I was playing Manchester derby. I was Man United against City and stuff.
Good choice.
And if you win, or lose, there's two new cutscenes. Sorry, it's then a new cutscene basically where they celebrate and they're like, yeah, and they thank the fans and all that.
Okay, that's all right.
So yeah, I mean, it's nice. It does. For example, if you're in career mode again, it will add another little bit of realism, because obviously derby games are completely different to just normal any other game that you play, aren't they? Really. So so yeah, it really adds realism to it. It is nice, and I think it's one of those things that you probably won't get tired of, because obviously derbies only happen. It happens with rivals as well. So it could be like City versus Chelsea, whatever. But it happens with derbies and rivals. It's something that happens maybe four times a season, if that.
Like important games, like, you know, if there's a title race on, if United and City are winning, or something, if United and Chelsea are in the title race first and second, you might get that sort of a cutscene in those games. That's what you're saying. Yeah. I mean, obviously, as before, and the way it's always been, you always get the changes in commentary because they say, "Oh, this is a very important game," blah 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 blah. But now there's a cutscene to go with it, which is nice. Haven't they got a new commentator as well? I don't know if you mentioned this already, but isn't is Alex Scott's now in the game?
Alex Scott has replaced Alan McInally as the announcer of the other games.
Oh no, I like Alan McInally.
Yeah. So I'm undecided if I found it annoying or not. But then again, I was undecided last time if I found Alan McInally annoying. So
is Jeff Struve still there? Are we still gonna be asked, like, you know? I think it's only in my knock. I think he'll walk it off when he's like snapped his kneecap in half.
Funny enough, we are branching onto career mode quite a lot. I mean, there's a lot to cover more on career mode. We'll do that in a separate episode. But I've only had one injury, and I've played about 6 or 7 seasons.
I did notice that, like, this is one thing I did on FIFA 21 again, getting onto career mode, but I turned the injury severity down a couple of points, on the CPU,
on the sliders,
and I turned my injury frequency up to like 70 or 80%, because even like 80%, most injuries I'm getting are like just knocks out for a couple of days. That's one thing I would say, like, because I've played a bit of FM recently, the new FM 21 Football Manager. And the injuries on there are way more realistic. Obviously, Football Manager is a computer game, also an actual PC game, which can be a lot more immersive. But
I mean, in real life, you probably get an injury maybe once every other game, maybe 1 in 3, I'd say.
Yeah.
And if you're Arsenal, maybe once a game, but
or multiple a game according to Arsenal at the
moment. But yeah, so I mean it would be. I mean, obviously they would branch you onto career mode now, but sliders are very useful for that. But yeah, I don't know. It's my honest opinion. So it's my honest answer for that. I don't know if you're still answering that. It might be Alex Scott still. I don't know. but yeah, so that's that. That's going to be the end of this episode. So we've covered quite a lot, really. And yeah, so next episode we're going to be covering. It's going to be a long one. We're going to be covering career mode, ultimate team, and pro clubs. Even though there's literally nothing new on pro clubs, I'll give you a hint there. But yeah, so that's going to be the end. So thank you again so much for watching. Don't forget to check out our sponsor as well for this episode as well. Like I said before, it is the 3-0 podcast. So we're on all major podcast platforms, Spotify, Castbox, Google Podcasts, all of those ones.
We also have an Instagram page as well. So our Instagram page at the 3-0 podcast will have links to every episode that we've posted onto our Anchor page, who are our podcast hosts. Sorry, so Anchor are the podcast hosts. But obviously, yeah. Check out, just type in 3-0 podcast anyway, and we'll pop up on it on most social media sites. Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, thanks again, and thank you again, Ethan, for joining. It's been good.
Good.
And see you again next episode.